Naive media.
All right, let's dive right in today. We're going deep on some CIA records today about Lee Harvey Oswald
Oh, wow.
in Mexico City.
Okay.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at September 1963, right
Yeah.
before the assassination,
Right.
and what was going on with his visits to the Soviet and Cuban embassies.
I'm excited.
Yeah, this should be good.
Yeah.
So we're going to be using mostly, two main documents, a chronology that the CIA put together, and then a really interesting interview with David Atlee Phillips,
Okay.
who, was the chief of covert action in the Mexico City station at the time.
All right.
So he was definitely there.
Wow. Yeah, he would know.
He would know.
Right in the thick of things.
So our mission today is to figure out what these documents tell us about Oswald's, his activities there in those embassies.
Right.
And maybe even more importantly, what did the U.S. intelligence, community,
Right.
what did they know at the time? So let's jump in. Between September 26th and 30th of 1963, Oswald goes on this little embassy tour.
Little tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first place he went was the Cuban embassy on September 26th, and he wanted to get a visa to go to Cuba.
Okay.
But he was planning on going on to Russia.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he wanted to go to Cuba on his way to Russia.
Okay.
They took notes
Of course.
on him. They described him as 5'6", tall, blonde hair, very thin, sunken cheeks, aquiline nose.
Specific.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, they were watching him.
Yeah, for sure.
Straight eyebrows. They said he looked to be around 35 years old,
Okay.
and he had on a light blue Prince of Wales suit.
Oh,
And
fancy.
he looked cold. He looked cold with a hard face and cunning gaze.
Wow. That's quite a description.
That's what they said. I mean, that's in the file.
Wow. So they're
Yeah.
definitely observing very, very closely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Taking note.
He also presented his Fair Play for Cuba committee membership card and his American Communist Party.
So he was being very upfront about
Yeah.
his affiliations.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
That's
Almost like he wanted to be noticed.
Yeah.
Or at least, he wasn't hiding anything.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they're like, you can't get this visa. You need a Russian visa first.
Oh, okay. So he's got to go to the other
Yeah.
embassy first.
So that's when he went to the Soviet embassy
Right.
on September 27th.
Got it.
He contacted them, and then he went and visited them.
Okay.
And he's showing them all the same documents, his marriage license.
Wow.
And, he wanted to get a visa to go to Odessa.
Okay.
And they said, yeah, we'll take care of this, no problem.
Interesting.
We'll expedite this, basically.
Right.
Now, here's where things start to get interesting.
Okay.
Because the Soviets, behind the scenes, basically, they told the Cubans that, hey, for him to actually get a visa, we got to get authorization from Moscow. And that could take, up to 4 months.
Oh, wow.
So Oswald was like, man, this is not happening fast enough.
Right. He wanted to get out of there.
Yeah. And this is where Sylvia Duran enters the picture.
Okay.
She was working at the Cuban embassy.
All right.
And she, she starts talking to Oswald.
Okay.
And she feels bad for him because he was just rejected again by the Cuban consul. Like, I didn't even ask you.
Oh, okay.
And so she starts trying to help him.
Okay. So she's taking pity on him.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, yeah. But it's also interesting, why is she
Yeah. Why is she getting involved? Yeah.
getting involved?
Right.
So now we have this flurry of calls.
Oh.
Oswald calls the Soviets. Duran calls the Soviets for him.
Wow. She's really trying to help him.
Yeah. And at one point, he even spends the night with her.
Oh, wow.
So,
Things are progressing.
yeah, I mean, he was very determined to get these visas.
Yeah.
He even went to a pro-Castro group.
Really?
Yeah, at the University of Mexico,
Wow.
trying to get their help.
He's pulling out all the stops?
Oh, yeah, he wanted to go.
Yeah.
And then eventually around October 1st, he just leaves Mexico.
Okay, so he doesn't
Yeah.
get the visa.
He doesn't get it.
Okay.
Now, here's what the CIA knew.
Okay.
On September 30th,
Okay.
the Mexico City station, they got this transcript.
Okay.
And it was a transcript where Sylvia Duran is talking
Okay.
about this American
Okay.
with a Soviet official.
Mm-hmm.
And they even said, hey, can we ID this guy?
Really?
They wanted to know who it was.
Oh, so they were already kind of suspicious.
Yeah, they were listening.
Okay.
Now, this is wild.
Okay.
October 1st. about the day after
Yeah.
somebody who was listening to a Soviet phone tap heard a guy speaking English.
Okay.
And the guy identified himself as Oswald.
Wow.
This tape was marked urgent.
Oh, wow.
And, they transcribed it right away.
So they knew
Yeah.
that he was in contact with the Soviets and Cubans?
They knew something was going on.
Oh, wow.
Then, on October 7th, photos came in from the Soviet embassy.
Okay.
And the station starts trying to figure out,
Got it.
like, is this the same Oswald from September 27th
Right.
from the conversation with Duran? And they basically used voice comparison. They said, yeah, it's the same guy.
Oh.
And that's when they opened Oswald's P file.
Ah, okay. So now he's officially on their radar.
On the radar.
Officially.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
David Atlee Phillips, he testified to the HSCA in 1978.
Okay.
And he said, look, I was chief of covert action
Mm-hmm.
from 1961 to 1963.
Okay.
And he said, most of their operations were focused against Cuba and the Soviets.
Right. Right.
So they were definitely watching those embassies.
Keeping an eye on any
Keeping an eye on-
activities.
He also said that, I didn't really handle agents directly.
Okay.
I was more,
Higher up.
higher up.
Big picture.
But he did say that they knew the Cuban embassy was under surveillance.
Of course.
And they had agents, inside the embassy.
Wow. So they are
But he couldn't remember their names, he said.
really? He couldn't remember. Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
That is interesting.
He did say he had a good relationship with Win Scott, the chief of station.
Okay.
But this is something that I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
He said that Sylvia Duran's name popped up all the time
Oh, really?
on these phone taps,
Wow.
But they didn't really care about her at first.
Hmm.
And he even said she wasn't really, friendly with anybody.
Okay.
But then he said later on,
Okay.
he found out that
Okay.
they had actually been really interested in her before
Oh, how come?
because of her affair with Ambassador Lechuga.
Oh, wow.
So they did know who she was.
Okay, so they were aware of her,
Yeah.
but maybe not for the reason.
Right.
You would think.
Yeah.
Right.
And he even admitted that they probably tried to recruit
Oh.
almost everyone at the Cuban embassy.
So she likely would have been on that list.
And he said that, her 201 file,
Okay.
the file that the CIA keeps on a person,
Right?
that it should have been super thick.
Okay.
And if it wasn't thick
Yeah.
before the assassination,
Mm-hmm.
then that would be really weird.
That would be very suspicious.
Yeah. So that kind of makes you wonder, like,
Yeah.
was there some file manipulation going on?
Yeah, were things removed
Yeah.
to make it look like
Yeah.
they weren't as
Yeah.
interesting?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then he said, I don't know anything about this cable
What cable?
that was sent to Mexico after Duran was arrested, saying that, hey, no Americans can talk to her.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was like, I don't know anything about that.
He doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's kind of a big deal if he doesn't remember that.
Yeah.
And he was really vague about whether Win Scott had a safe in his office.
Oh, for sensitive materials?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of weird, too.
Got
Like,
it.
did they keep stuff separate?
Yeah.
Then they asked him about Eusebio Askew, who was the Cuban consul.
Right.
And he was like, he wasn't Cuban intelligence,
Oh,
as far as I know.
All right.
Now, he did say he knew Teresa Parenza,
Oh, Teresa Parenza.
but he couldn't really remember any details about her.
Oh, really?
And he didn't know if she was a CIA asset or not.
Okay.
And it's weird because there's this report
Okay.
that says she's dangerous.
Really?
Yeah.
So she must have been doing something
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
substantial.
They also asked him about Amrod, which was a disinformation operation, possibly targeting Proenza.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
there's a lot going on there.
a lot going on.
Wow.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
He said that he didn't remember any CIA information saying that Oswald had talked to anyone at the Cuban embassy
Other than,
other than Askew and Duran.
right.
But the FBI reports say that he did talk to Parenza.
Oh, wow. So there's conflicting
There's
information.
conflicting information.
Oh, yeah.
And then he was like, well, headquarters or Jamwave,
Right.
they could have been running agents in Mexico without the Mexico City station knowing about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially for sensitive operations.
So they could have been running things without
Yeah.
him even knowing.
Yeah, but he said it would have made Win Scott really mad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that would be like stepping on his toes,
Right.
And
Wow.
then finally, he couldn't remember anything about these photographs
Epigraphs of.
from from like impulse camera testing that they were doing.
Oh, okay.
That started on September 27th.
Interesting.
And then he did say that the FBI would mess with files on CIA employees.
Really?
Yeah, if the CIA asked them to.
Wow. So there was some collaboration there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he said that other files could be manipulated too.
Right.
Internal CIA files and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So let's kind of sum this all up.
Yeah.
Oswald's clearly trying really hard to get visas to Cuba and the Soviet Union.
Right.
And that's definitely raising eyebrows
Of course.
at U.S. intelligence.
Right.
They're watching these embassies.
Right.
And they figure out who Oswald is from that phone tap pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But, what do they know about Sylvia Duran?
Yeah.
What do they know about Teresa Proenza?
Yeah, and how much were they really trying to recruit her?
Right.
Right.
And, Phillips' testimony is kind of shaky.
It is a little shaky.
Yeah, it doesn't match up with some other stuff.
And the possibility of those files being manipulated really makes you wonder what really happened.
So here's a question for you.
Okay.
What if the CIA had understood what Oswald was doing in Mexico City?
Right.
And really put it all together.
Yeah.
Before November 22nd, 1963.
Wow.
What could have happened?
That's a great question.
And then this file manipulation thing.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about the story
Yeah.
of the assassination?
That's something to think about.
A lot to think about.
For sure.
Yeah, some food for thought.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on this deep dive with us.
Yeah, this was fascinating.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you in the next one.
Naive Media.